All right, so here we are. I'm with my PaPa dude. As a matter of fact, I'll do the intro. I've done this 3 times now, so I'm sure he's about had enough of it. I'll do the intro before the show starts, but just a little background to why we're sitting here. I was going to get my grandpa this thing for his birthday. I meant for it to be here, but I had to fill out this questionnaire thing, and that was when I discovered like there's a lot of things that I don't know that I should probably know. So that's what led us to now. And I'm just speed loading this first part because we literally have done this 3 times, and he's patiently waiting. It's my PaPa Doogie, and so like here's the story. Like I know he's a World War II veteran. I know he retired from McDonnell Douglas after. This is what I think I know. I'll get to him in a second. After 35 years, he was a state champion bow shooter. I know he loves deer hunting and fishing more than anything in the world. And, those are just highlights. So I'm gonna get to it. I mean, he lived 53 years before I was born. So now, officially, and we're not stopping. We're not stopping anymore, PaPa. You're going to have to tell me. All I remember when I was a kid is when I looked in the phone book, it said E.D. Phillips. I've read it forever. It said E.D. Phillips, and I'm like, he's my grandpa, and I know everybody calls him Doogie, but I don't think the D is Doogie, is it?
Yes, D-U-G-I-E is what I spell it. D-U-G-I-E is what I spell it.
Yeah, but is that E.D.? Is that?
No, it's Irvin Dole Phillips.
Irvin Dole Phillips.
Yeah, Daddy nicknamed me Doogie.
He nicknamed you Doogie.
Yeah. Said I wore all the hair off the back of my head when I was a baby. And as you know, shooting marbles back in my days, they called them doogies.
Yeah.
Let's go out and shoot some doogies. Well, my dad thought the back of my head looked like one of them little doogies. And that's where I recorded that nickname, and it stayed with me ever since.
No, that's crazy. I didn't know that story. I had no idea.
I'll tell you where I was born.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm about to ask you. Oh, yeah. I just talk right up in the microphone. Okay. Because you can hear it bassy if you scoot a little closer to it.
Yeah.
Or I can slide it to you.
That's all right.
Yeah. So Doogie, now. Yeah, that's the part I want to hear. Where were you born?
I was born at Cardin, Oklahoma. That's just on the east of Pitcher, Oklahoma. I was born there on September the 9th, 1926.
1926.
Yeah, my dad worked in the mines there for Eagle Pitcher Mining Company. And that's where I lived until, I think I was 4 years old. And we moved out of there and we landed over at Dennis.
Yeah.
And we lived there at Dennis for a while. And then we left from there and come down to Uchi, down on Spavinall Creek, west of Uchi.
All right, I got a couple questions. Just because you brought up your dad, what was your dad's name?
George Harm Phillips.
George Harm Phillips.
Yeah, and he was born in 1898.
Where was he born at? Where's he from? Was he from that same area?
He was born in Golden, Missouri.
Golden, Missouri.
Yeah, up around WWII.
Is that where, did he grow up through his childhood there in Golden, Missouri?
No, they left there. They didn't live there. They landed in there from my great-grandfather. They come in from over in England, somewhere over there.
Yeah.
Holland and England. And they landed down around in the southern part of the States. And then from there, they come to Golden, Missouri.
Golden, Missouri.
That's where they lived when my dad was born.
Huh. Is that Golden, Missouri? That's not like Golden, Colorado, where they make the beer, is it?
I don't think so.
You don't. I bet somebody's making beer up in the hills there.
Yeah.
What about your mom? What's your mom's name?
And my mother was Bertha May Rayon, and I don't know where she was born. Well, I do too. She was born over at Uchi.
She was born in Uchi.
Yeah, she was born in Uchi, Rattlesnake Holler.
So where?
In 1919.
Where did?
1900 rather.
1900.
Yeah.
And your dad was born when?
1898.
Okay.
He's 2 years older. He died in 36.
See, when you said 1919 for a second, I thought your dad was robbing the cradle. A little. I didn't. Well, so do you know how they met? Do you know that story?
No, don't know much about how they met. I know Daddy lived down at Uchi, where they landed down on Spavinaw Creek there, and his dad was a blacksmith all of his life. He was a blacksmith, moved 4 or 5 different times with his blacksmith business.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they got together. I don't know. He lived at Uchi and she lived up in Rattlesnake Holler, about 4 or 5 miles apart. Of course, he courted her. He rode back and forth on a horseback, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell you a little story about him. He's riding his horse down Rattlesnake Holler, going home one evening. Looked down a little draw there, the side of the road, and there's a big turkey standing up on a big log down there. He pulled out his old 38 Colt pistol, and he snapped it 6 times.
Yeah.
And failed to fire. The old turkey flew off then, and he pulled the trigger, and it fired the first shot. He throwed it as far as he could down that holler by a big old chunk rock down there. 30 years later, he happened to think about that. He went back and found that pistol.
Really?
Yeah.
30 years later. Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, he didn't get a turkey that day, did he?
No, he didn't get no turkey. And she lived there in Rattlesnake Holler, and he lived at Uchi, and that's when they got married.
Yeah. Well, now I got a couple more questions because you said Pitcher. That's not even a town anymore, right? The town is condemned, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess Carden is probably still there. Pitcher it's gone, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's houses there, but didn't they condemn it?
But it's
a Superfund site. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's crazy. So
my oldest brother Melvin, he was born at Uchi, and my baby sister was born at Uchi, and my brother, just older than me, he was born at Zinkville. I was born at Carden.
So, you were born in Carden,
yeah,
and but the other two Uchi. Well, so when your dad lived in Uchi, was he a blacksmith there also? Was that what he did?
My grandpa was a blacksmith.
I'm sorry, your grandpa.
My dad was a farmer.
A farmer.
Yeah, he farmed till 1935. He started coughing up blood.
Yeah.
Had that miner's consumption.
So it was from the mines?
Yeah, he worked 16 years for Eagle Pitcher in the mines. Lost him and 2 uncles, all to miner's consumption. All of them worked at Eagle Pitcher Mining. Daddy spent 14 months at Tallahena TB Sanatorium down there, and he told him if he's going to die, he's going to die at home. So he came home, and he lived about 9 months at home before he passed away in 1936.
And how old were you?
There when he passed away, I was 9 years old.
So now I got a question. When you were a kid, did you go hunting with him? Did you go hunting, fishing with him?
No, he
always working.
He was, like I said, he was a farmer. We Mama done the fishing and catch rainbow trout down the Spavinaw Creek, catch some big rainbow trout. They ain't on there now, but I can remember when she caught one evening. She caught 2 5-pound rainbow trouts while Daddy was plowing the corn and we was pulling weeds.
Really? Well, that's awesome. So, how long have they not had rainbow trout there? It's been
it's been years.
Huh. So what did he farm? What
corn?
Corn
There in the Spavinaw Creek bottom.
Was it sweet corn or was it
no?
Corn
It was just hard corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's hard corn used for? Just feeds?
Hog feed mainly.
Yeah.
And of course you can still buy it. You can still buy it in the store. It's a yellow corn, hard corn.
But you didn't use corn. Well, you know what? If you were growing corn, I'd imagine there was a lot of deer around, weren't there?
Oh no, there was no deer. Period. Back then.
Really?
They might have been. I don't know if they was even down south. See the Down in the Comanche Mountains is where the deer started from all over this country, other than down there.
Well, what was the main animal that you would? Rabbits,
squirrels, and rabbits, quails.
Yeah. Do you have a preference over those? Do you have a favorite?
Oh yeah.
What's that?
A young red squirrel.
You like a young red squirrel?
Yeah.
Are gray squirrels good to eat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's more meat on the red squirrel.
Yeah. So a young one. So how do you know if they're young? How do you know? I know you know.
Well, mostly, sometimes you make a mistake, but most of the time you can tell by the size of them, whether they're young or not. And once in a while, it'll be maybe have a smaller fox squirrel or something, maybe a gray squirrel.
Yeah.
You make a mistake and kill him, now that's an old mama squirrel.
Well, I don't want to. I'm just going to make a statement because you brought up squirrels, and I know that I'm jumping ahead, but we're going to go right back. I do know, coming down here at childhood, we ate squirrel often here. That's when I don't think you forced me. I think I did it, but we ate squirrel brains too.
Oh yeah.
Do you like squirrel brains?
Oh, you betcha.
But that's the thing. Like it's what's funny is I ate it because my dad ate it because you ate it, and I didn't know any different. But and it's kind of a sad deal. I probably should take my kids hunting and fishing. Once again, I'm jumping way ahead more than I want to, but I guarantee if I threw a squirrel down on a plate in front of my daughters, what do you think they'd do?
Oh, they'd jump up and run.
Yeah, yeah, they'd have no idea. They have no. They don't. They're clueless as far as that goes. So now let's go back. Now I know that your dad passed away, and that put you at 9 years old, and you were there with your mom. Your mom just continued to fish, and what did you do with the crops after that? Did you guys farm?
Oh, we left the farm before Daddy passed away. Before he went to Tallahassee down there to sanatorium.
Okay.
But we didn't do that. And mother had five kids to raise, 3 boys and 2 girls.
And so was a large source of your food hunting? Is that what you guys?
Oh yeah, that, and then in the fall, I made good money trapping minks and possums, skunks.
What'd you do with
bobcats, gray fox?
Did you just trap those for skin?
You skin them out. Back then, you had to make boards, stretch the hides on, and dry them.
Yeah,
all of them. Nowadays, you just take the hide off and roll it hair side out.
Yeah.
I mean, hair side in,
and
then put them in a deep freeze until you get ready to sell them in February.
So now let me ask you this: I know that in the cold, even if you shot a big bull elk and you had all the meat that you could stare at, you do have to have some other food sources. So like vegetables. Did you grow your own stuff? Is that?
Oh yeah, we made big gardens. Mama did. Yeah. She canned peas, green beans, and everything like that you can can.
Well, that's one thing I know that of my earliest memories.
Yeah,
some of my earliest memories of you was me and you standing in that garden out there. So I know that you always had it. You always had a pretty big garden. Is it still? You still do it?
Yeah.
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 Well, that's awesome. But I tell you what, that's why I feel like, you're 94 years old, and you're still in your vehicle every day, eating 3 meals a day at different restaurants, hanging out in town. And I think about that a lot because I'm like, oh, well, my grandparents lived to be older, but you also were raised in a different time where the food was better. The food was real.
Oh yeah.
And now we live in a time where it's just really it's a lot of junk, and so I would be crazy to think that I would live to be 95 with with the way I've ate. So it's crazy. And so you still do those things, and you've continued to do it. So now we'll go back because I want to say something. Now, how old were you when you got your first tattoo?
7 years old.
You were 7. 7.
Had a horse's head with my initials underneath it. Me and my brother had identical tattoos on our arm, and that's on our Army records too as identification.
Yeah.
Horse's head on the left forearm with initial underneath. That scar right there in the center of my forehead, that was from a double-bitted chopping axe. Walked up behind my brother when I was 3 years old. He was chopping wood with a double-bitted chopping axe. And if I'd have been a half inch farther, I probably wouldn't have been here today. It just stuck the corner of that broad axe in the center of my forehead there.
Really?
Went in the house and he stuffed it full of salt. And I've always heard to put salt on your brain to kill you. It didn't kill me.
Well, that must have been a tragic deal. But back then,
oh boy!
But back then, when that stuff happened, really, you had no choice. You really just had to tough it out, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, where were you going to go? You guys probably didn't sprint to the hospital.
Well, Mom and Daddy wasn't at home. He was down in the field working, and my mother was over at my youngest daughter's godmother's place. Lived close to us over there. She'd happened to be over there whenever this happened. That was a miracle that I wasn't standing a half inch closer to him when he come back,
Yeah.
Stuck the corner of that. You see the scar right there.
Did you just because you brought that up, did you have any broken bones when you were a kid ever?
No, never did. The only broken bones that I had was a rib bone broke and one cracked. An old boy hit me in the side with a rotten cantaloupe after I'd hit him with one. And that was over in Japan after the war was over and we went in for occupation duty.
Yeah.
And I'd hit him with a rotten cantaloupe and then I tore out around the corner of the building and over there where we was at in Nagano, there's a pedestal of ice growed upside down like a ice cream cone where the water dripped off the corner of the house. And when I went downside the building, I just hooked my hand on the corner of the building and spun around it, keep from hitting me. And my feet slipped off from under me and I went down on that cone of ice and broke a rib and cracked another one. That's the only bones I ever had broken.
What about your brothers? Like when you were a kid, did they ever break a bone? The reason I'm asking, because when you're out there in the middle of nowhere like that.
No, we never did. We was lucky.
Yeah.
They was lucky 2 times. They was lucky both times I made the D-Day invasion in Europe, World War II.
But both brothers?
Both of them, and my uncle.
Yeah, wow. Who's your uncle?
Jimmy Phillips.
Jimmy Phillips.
Yeah, he was the only boy. My dad and him were the only 2 boys of that family, and there was 5 girls. That's Grandpa Phillips.
So I'll ask about that in just a second. I don't need any, we don't have to get into any depth. I just know that you told me some funny stories about in your time in the military. But before we go there, so you grew up, and how old were you? How old were you when you decided that you were going to go to the Army?
I didn't decide; they did.
Oh, they decided for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 18 years old.
So what? So when you, all right, just because there's a gap period there. Did you go to high school anywhere?
No, I went to 8th grade.
You went to 8th grade?
Yeah.
So so at 8th grade, how old are you in 8th grade? 14, 15?
No,
Is that how old people are in 8th grade? I don't know.
I think I was around 14 or 15, somewhere along there.
Okay, and I know times were different then too. Like now, if somebody quit, they'd probably take their mom and dad to jail. But like, how did so at 14 or 15, did you go straight to work somewhere?
Yeah, I worked on Brush Creek Ranch up there. He was doing more or less. He just had me there because he knew our situation.
Yeah.
Mother alone with 5 kids, but I worked there for a while. But mainly now I had guys here in Tulsa, oil men. That they'd give me $20 every weekend to have the bait ready and we'd go fishing every bait. And There was three of them. I forget what their name was. K.O. Sowers, one of them. Bonnie Henderson's one. And they paid me $20 every Saturday. And they'd come down Friday night, and we'd fish Saturday and Sunday.
Well, that was a lot of money back then, right?
Oh, yeah, $20. You get a half wagon load of groceries for $20. And incidentally, when I went to basic training down to Camp Walters, Texas, there's an old sergeant in there, because they'd done been in Europe, wounded, and they'd come back, and most of the cavalrymen down there were guys that had come back from over in Europe, you know. Well, this sergeant at the mess hall kept looking at me, and of course I looked at him. I thought he looked familiar, and so after a day or two, he come over and said, "Soldier," he said, "where are you from?" I said, "Uchi, Oklahoma." He said, "That's it." He said, "You're that little fella that run up and down the creek over there, the pocket full of crawdads scratching your legs." I never pulled KP. I pulled one time that Sunday, and that was the end of KP for me. I never pulled another KKP.
Really?
He was my buddy.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So did you recognize him after he brought it up?
Oh, yeah. But I was just trying to flash in my memory, trying to figure where it's in him.
Yeah.
And incidentally, my squad leader down there and during basic training was Robert L. Parker Jr., Parker Drilling Company.
Really?
And his daddy and mom owned the refineries at Cisco, Texas. And we went down there every weekend, put us up in a hotel. And we never cost us a dime. He paid for everything. Of course, he's already graduated from college. He was 22 years old. His mom and daddy owned the refineries down there. They were oil people.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this, and then I'll get to it, because so 15. Did you work at that ranch for 3 years?
No. This was, I don't know, a month and a half, something other. And my main deal then was my weekend with them. I started with them at 13 years old, something like that. And I fished with them clear up until I was 18.
So you did. So really, you did fish almost like a fishing guide. I mean, almost.
Well, yeah, with them I was.
Yeah. Okay. So now what were you doing? What was your job? The day that you got a letter that said Uncle Sam's ready for you to come on.
That was we was in NY government training, welding training school, R&J.
Uh-huh.
And me and my brother both went through that and passed, and that made me, I thought, one of the best welders that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I still think it.
Because of that school? It was a good school?
Yeah, I did. Went through that government welding school. Back then, I guess they was figuring on us going into shipyards or someplace or something, you know.
Yeah.
And that was my MOS whenever I signed up in the Army, you know. As I turned in that was my experience, you know, was a welder. And instead of putting me in a welding school, they put me in the infantry.
So let me. Okay, so that day, do you remember the day that did somebody show up face to face and say, "Are you coming?" Did you get a letter?
You got a letter, yeah. Yeah, you got a. There wasn't hardly a boy or a man left in the country back there then, from 18 years old to about 35.
Yeah.
Men and people my age, boys my age, they just didn't nobody be at home, like down there at Mineral Wells, Texas.
Yeah.
We went in the theater down there to get some girls to go to the Rough Garden to dance. We picked, as 11 of us picked up 18 girls to go to the dance with us. And I never seen them. There wasn't a boy in there except 2 artillery boys, and they joined us.
So that was the best dance you ever been to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd probably been the best dance I ever been to. That's funny. All right, well, so I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about Grandma yet, but I do got a question. Did you meet her after the war?
Meet who?
Did you meet Alta May after the war?
Oh yeah.
All right, so we'll get to that because I didn't know where that when that time came in. So you're in the service how long?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. And I did think this was interesting. I have a friend. I don't want to tell a 5-minute side story. Somebody's grandpa left out and sailed underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and then that started making me think. I've been a lot of places. I've been all over, and I didn't know. For all the places that you've been in the world, I started thinking, like, where did Grandpa leave out from? Now, I've asked you this before, so I know. But so when you left, where'd you go to basic?
Took my basic training in Camp Walters, Texas. That's down in Mineral Wells.
Okay. So from there?
From there, I went to Camp Stoneman, California for some advanced night infiltration tactics.
Uh-huh.
And from Camp Stoneman down, that's when they loaded us up in trucks and went to Oakland Bay. And that's where we loaded out Oakland Bay and went out and under the Golden Gate Bridge.
That had to be a odd thing because
Japan.
We're in Japan.
We landed up. Well, first went to Mog. We dropped some supplies off at Mog. That's a little island off of the Philippines. Mog and Anahuac, that's where they tested atomic bombs,
Yeah.
We dropped supplies at both places. I was on a troop ship, but they carried some supplies that they dropped off them 2 places.
So go ahead.
We from there then we landed at Leyte Bay in the Philippines, and that's when I joined the 77th Infantry Division.
All right, so I'll get back to that in a second, but just to go back to when you took off. Had you saw the Golden Gate Bridge in pictures before then?
No, I don't think so.
You did, so you didn't even really know what it was. So it didn't have the big aura as now. Like now, it's like, oh, it's Golden Gate Bridge. It's the okay. So, but was that the largest bridge you'd seen in your life at that point?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, that's
I've seen some in Japan, but nothing like that. I mean, they just crossed the Bandabashi River and the Sashagawa River lined with cherry blossoms down both sides.
Yeah.
They were good-sized rivers, so both of them.
Do you remember the ship that you sailed on? What the name of it? Do you remember?
The boat I went over on was the USS Golden City. The one I come back on was the USS Serpent.
So you went to Japan and the Philippines. That's
Philippines first, and then the war was over. Went on in Japan, done 4 months occupation duty.
Now I know that's a different time when we and I already said we won't get into all those stories. But you have told me a funny story before about being in the war, about posted up across the bridge, and a kid just wanted chocolate.
Yeah.
You remember telling me that story?
What?
You said you and your friend were posted up, and you were supposed to. Well, you're supposed to shoot anybody that crossed the bridge. It didn't matter.
Oh,
and there was a kid.
Yeah, that was on sentry duty while I was in Japan over there at Hokkaido, Niigata, on the island of Hokkaido. And that was a separation from the other 2 main islands, And I was standing sentry guard at the end of that bridge of one of them old, we call them grease guns on 45 machine gun. Actually, like it just carried on a sling strap,
Yeah.
And this incidentally happened to be a Korean truck, coal-powered steam engine truck. And I had orders nobody cross that bridge there going into town. Unless truck come down to us smoking that black smoke. And I stepped out in front of him and he stopped. I told him, you can't cross it. I said, well, dama. Motion to him, can't cross. Well, he backed up a little ways, and And I stood there holding that old grease gun, you know. Well, he decided he'd just go across anyway, and he cut out from me, you know. He's a little ways back from me, and he cut over to the other side of the bridge to try to go by me. And, oh, man, I had the steam blowing. I hit him about 4 times, that engine. Busted the block, I guess. It got steam where you couldn't smoke, you couldn't even see. They jumped out and ran. And then the Japanese police was right there close to the Japanese police station where this happened. You know, the fact, the end of the bridge, you come right off it and turned into the police station there. Yeah, so they caught them guys. I don't know what they done with them. But that was quite a deal.
Well, yeah, that's cool. So, did you meet any buddies in World War II that you ever kept up with after it was over?
No, nobody except my cousin.
Yeah,
over here, lives over the other side of Spavinal. I run on to him there in Japan one night at the NSO club. I was sitting at one end of the bar, drinking a cup of coffee, eating a donut, and I kept looking at this guy down the other end, side view of him, but I thought, hey, that guy kind of looks familiar to me. And pretty soon he turned and looked towards me, and it was my cousin, J.B. Banover, from over here at Spavinal. That was the only one that
Did you instantly get excited?
Oh, yeah. But we never met again. We got to talk for about an hour and a half, and he was stationed. I was stationed out by, we called it Wino. There in Japan, Wino.
Yeah.
It was at the end of the line of the trolley cards, you know. And I don't know where he was at. He was with the 25th Infantry Division, someplace there, Yokohama or somewhere.
Yeah.
But I never seen him again until he got home.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Well, did you? I mean, I think you told me this before we talked. After you got home from the war and you came back through the Golden Gate Bridge, what'd you do the first day you got off the boat?
First day I got off the boat,
yeah,
I headed for the closest and the best cafe there was to get me a big steak.
Do you recall that steak?
Yeah.
Do you I mean,
it was a top sirloin.
do you by chance remember the restaurant? Do you remember that name?
Oh, no, I don't remember.
But you remember that meal, huh?
Yeah, we had steaks.
It was a good one. Well, that's I would imagine. What was it when you finally got back? Was it some kind of relief? Like when you finally saw the United States again?
Yeah, we was all happy to get back home.
So when you got home, and you ate that steak, how long did you have to go back to that original camp that you were in California?
No, we went from when they loaded us after we got off the ship.
Yeah,
they loaded us in trucks and took us back to Camp Stoneman there.
Yeah.
And they processed us out there then. We got on trains out there and went to San Antonio, Texas. And that's where I was discharged there. And then I got on a plane there at San Antonio and come into Tulsa and hitchhiked from our home to Uchi.
You hitchhiked?
Two rides from there from Tulsa to Uchi.
Yeah. The people that took you into Uchi, do you remember where they were from?
Well, he was a mail carrier.
Mail carrier.
I caught one ride from Tulsa to Spavinal.
Yeah.
Guy picked me up. Just lucky, I had a taxi cab bring me out the traffic circle out the east end of Tulsa, you know.
Yeah.
And I just got out, I had a big duffel bag, and I just got off and stand on the side of the road 5 minutes. This guy pulled over and stopped and said, "Soldier, where you going?" I said, "I'm going to Uchi, Oklahoma." He said, "Well, I can pretty near get you there." He said, "I'm going to Spavinal. Get in." So I went to Spavinal, and then I caught the mail carrier there from Uchi. And took me right on down.
Is that the first time you ever hitchhiked?
Yeah.
Is it? Is that the only time you ever hitchhiked?
Yeah.
Well,
two rides there, and I was from Tulsa to home.
Did Did they just take you straight? Did you go eat anywhere when you got to Tulsa?
No.
No?
No, I just got off the plane there and caught me a taxi to take me out the edge of town.
So so you were 20 or 21 years old then?
Yeah, 21.
You were 21.
Well, right at 21.
Did you go to the beer joint?
No.
No?
No.
Well, that's probably why you're a little healthier than I am, Papa. I'm retired from beer now, but I've had them. So yeah. So all right. So at 21 years old, at 21, you get home. What you went to work? What was the job you had after that?
Oh, no, I didn't go. I didn't go to work for quite some time after that. I done a lot of fishing and a lot of hunting, and Homer Ortner there in Jay. I worked on Saturday up there for him. I done some welding on it. He had the international dealership,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of putting stuff together, when it comes in crates, put stuff together, and some had to be welded. And I worked there off and on for him quite a bit. Then I went back down to another rancher down there on Brush Creek, and me and my brother Kenneth, we both worked down there for him for about a year and a half. And then from out on then, I went over to my sister and brother-in-law's house over at Leach.
Yeah.
And that's where I was at when I met my wife.
Well, that was where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So you met Grandma in Leach.
Yeah.
Now tell me how you met Grandma. Tell me how you met her.
No, Grandma. No, I didn't meet Grandma. Oh, you're talking about Altamay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Grandma to me. How did you meet Altamay?
Oh.
That's my grandma, by the way. That's just,
well, the first time I ever met her, I had a 1938 model Roadmaster Buick, one of them old big ones, straight 8. Had the spare tires mounted in the back of the front fenders.
I'm not laughing at my grandpa. I'm not laughing at my grandpa. I know this story, and that's why it's funny. That's why I'm going to tell it.
But anyway, this is a mile north of 33 Highway, old dusty road down between the fields, Dust about a ½ inch deep on the road. And I was coming down through that old big straight 8 Buick. And she always accused me of doing it on purpose by saying this pretty little blonde riding a bicycle side the road. And I didn't do nothing other than just drove by her, but you couldn't see her for 5 minutes. So I was kind of afraid for her to see her. She lived about 200 to maybe a little over 200 yards from where my sister lived. And I waited about a week, and I got on a horse and rode up to her house. I said, I'll make a quick getaway maybe. And I rode up there. I told her I come up and wanted to apologize for dusting her the other day. She always swore until she passed away that I done it on purpose, but I didn't. So we got acquainted right there then, and we dated a few times after that then. And after about 9 months, I asked her to marry. Well, first I asked her folks if they had any objection to me and her getting married, and they said no, they didn't have no objections to it. They said she'd be 18 in 2 more months anyway, and she'd be able to make her own decisions.
And what's my grandma's name? What was her maiden name?
You mean my wife's?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can I call her grandma because it's my grandma? Yeah. What was Altamay?
Well, actually, she was her aunt.
Yeah.
Now, her mother died 3 days after she was born.
Uh-huh.
And the old doctor, when they delivered her, he turned around and she only weighed 3 pounds. The old doctor turned around, laid her on the table and said, she'll never make it. But then her aunt, Lula Bricky, that's one you've been calling Grandma. Anyway, she said, well, she ain't dead yet. And she took her and she raised her.
Yeah.
And but actually she was her aunt, but she always called her mama.
Yeah. Well, so, and now at that time, so now somewhere close, when did you start? Because I know you're at McDonnell Douglas. How long did you work at McDonnell Douglas?
33 years and 7 months.
Okay, so if you were there that long, then if you need to set up, you can. However it's comfortable, we can adjust it. But so, how long had you been married to Alta? I gotta say her name because it's confusing to you. How long were you married to Alta May when you started at McDonnell Douglas?
25. I was 25. I worked for the state. I was a roving welder and winch and gin pole rig operator. I had a 2.5 ton bobtail truck with the winch and gin pole rigging on it. And I pulled a 4-wheel trailer with a Lincoln generator, a welding machine.
Yeah.
On this pull behind my truck. And I covered 10 counties for the state here.
Oh, yeah?
Wherever they needed me,
well,
that's where I went.
I'll tell you this. This is a side note. I know it's your story, but this is mine. When I was an instructor at that military school over there,
Yeah.
I took a bus, and there was some kind of park, some kind of state park, or so, maybe a state park at Uchi, just right there at Uchi.
Yeah.
And I high-centered the bus on the highway and shut the highway down. I tried to make a sharp turn. If I drew a map and showed you how I tried to turn, you'd think I was an idiot for ever trying it. But I tried to turn that bus, and I didn't, and I hit the edge of the road, and I high centered it because the back tires weren't even touching the ground. The highway was shut down, but the highway department just so happened to be right across the bridge. So I was, that in itself was luck, because you couldn't pass, but we didn't have to go get the law involved. So it's not like I got reprimanded at work or anything. So the highway department shows up, and the first thing, and I don't know how they sold this. I don't know how they didn't get in trouble for this, but they brought their 1-ton truck over with a winch on the front and hooked it up to the bus while I was still in the seat, in the driver's seat. And I got nervous because he started hitting that winch and it went, I mean, you could see it. I'm like, that thing's gonna pop and cut my head off. And I was nervous. He hit that button one more time, and when he hit that button, the whole front bumper plus the winch flew off the truck. The cable didn't snap; it ripped the bumper off. And so now I'm like, oh, this is an ordeal. This is all we had going for us. And they finally went and got a backhoe and hooked it up, and that's how they got it unstuck. I felt like such an idiot. And every kid that got off, every kid that got off had something to say.
Yeah.
Nice going, Sergeant Phillips. Cool, Sergeant Phillips. I've just heard it from every kid that got off. Oh, yeah, I got annihilated on that deal. But it was right there at Uchi's where I did it. So I made a little history at Uchi myself, PaPa. Yeah. So you start, now how did you get that job at McDonnell Douglas? How'd you hear about it?
Well, like I said, I was a welder,
Yeah.
And they had ads in the paper, wanting welders.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I was working for the State Highway Department, at that time.
Yeah.
So I go down to the employment office there in Tulsa and told them, I said, I hear McDonnell Douglas out there wanting welders. I said, I'm a welder. I'm looking for a job. Well, they called out there to Douglas, and they said, well, we'd filled that job. Said it's not available now. They'd filled it. So I go on back to, my work for the State Highway Department, and they called me again. They come in and they said, we have a welder's helper job. I said, no. I said, all my experience with welding, I said, I was a better welder than the guy that's supposed to be helping. Mm-hmm. I said, I ain't going no place to be a welder's helper. So that ended that. And then Kenneth, my brother just older than me, he was working at Boeing Aircraft in Wichita, Kansas, and he told me, he said, dude, he said, come go up Wichita. I said, you can go in and hire in up there. Well, I went up there and hired in, but I didn't hire in as a welder. I held in as an electrical assembler.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to work up there at that.
In Wichita?
Yeah, in Wichita, Kansas, and I worked up there 6 months, and then McDonnell Douglas. Well, at that time it was just Douglas.
Did you live right where we're at right now then?
Yeah, and I went down to the same employment office and applied for a job. Because like I said, I've been working 6 months on them B-47s, and I knew them from front to back, left to right.
Yo,
and so I went in down there, and they said, well, the job's been filled right now. Well, they called me off my job 2 more times to go in for an interview, and every time I get up there, they tell me the job been filled. Well, the 3rd time I went up there, I just flung a little bat-wing door aside, and the gal sitting beside there asked me if she could help me, and I said, I just shrugged her off and went right on through back to an interviewer back there. And he had somebody in there, and I stood beside the door and waited till he got to that guy, and he motioned me to come in. I told him my story. I'd been there 3 times. I was qualified and had the experience, and I was a honorably discharged World War II veteran. I said, why in the hell won't they hire me out there? He said, well, wait just a minute. He stepped over in the other stall there. About 3 minutes he came by. He said, Mr. Phillips, said you be out there at the Douglas Employment Office Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Said they've got a job for you out there. And I said, I went to work for them that day. And I said, I worked for them for 33 years and 7 months.
You just forced your way in.
More or less.
That's how you got to do it. If you want it.
Yeah.
If you want it, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually super cool. But now, so when you were going to Wichita from here back then, and I'm not trying to act like back then was the Stone Age, but I know cars are different now.
No.
Highways are different. Speed limits are different.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to get to Wichita, and how often did you drive back and forth?
Well, I stayed up there.
Yeah.
I stayed up there, and then later on took my wife and my 2 kids. I had 2 kids then.
To Wichita?
Yeah, and I had a 1-room apartment up there.
Well,
and I lived there. That's just south of Wichita, there, 5 miles south of Wichita, is at a little town. I forget the name of it now. But anyway, then we rode back and forth there.
Yeah.
My brothers worked there, brother-in-law, and 2 brother-in-laws and my brother all worked up there. So we all lived right there in this.
well, all right.
area.
So I skipped a part, not on purpose. So if you were 25 when you went to McDonnell Douglas,
Yeah.
So you had kids. Now let's go back to that. How old were you when you had your first kid? Do you remember? To be honest, I don't.
51, I think Darlene was born. I think all my kids was born within 6 years span.
Yeah. So Darlene.
All 4 of them.
So now let me ask you. So Darlene was the first kid.
Yeah.
I got to use their names. Look, they're my aunt and uncle. But so Darlene was your first kid.
First and the oldest.
And then who?
Doyle.
So you were still at McDonnell Douglas for those?
Oh yeah. I was still there.
No, Darlene was born before or after McDonnell Douglas?
She was born before I went into McDonnell Douglas.
Okay, so you had your first kid.
2 of them, Darlene and Doyle, both was born before I went to Douglas.
Do you remember? Where was Darlene born?
Right here in Locust Grove.
I
lived in Locust Grove. She was born at Whitaker Hospital. All my kids was born at Whitaker Hospital.
Which I know is
Prior.
which what I come to know is Grand Valley, which is now whatever it's called now.
No, this is Whitaker Home when it went out, and then they built a new hospital there This was before they had the hospital.
Oh, so they didn't have Grand Valley.
Oh,
Just a side note, do you think they changed the name? This is what I'm led to believe, kids my age. I think we all think the same. Did they change the name from Grand Valley because everybody called it Death Valley? Is that real?
no, they was calling it Death Valley long after it was Grand Valley.
So that's been a thing. Like, I think everybody around there calls it Death Valley if you live around
A
here.
few years ago, I guess.
Yeah, all right. So they were born at Whitaker. So all 4 of your kids were born at Whitaker?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that simplifies that. Everybody's born in Pryor.
Yeah.
So, do you remember what it was like when Darlene came out? By the way, what's Darlene's name? What's her name?
Carol and Darlene fight.
Yeah. Now, do you remember when she was first born? I mean, I'm sorry. I got a text message. Do you remember your thoughts when you saw your first kid was born?
Oh, I don't remember. I just seen it was a little girl.
So I guess this is, forgive me for if it makes me sound unintelligent, but back then, did you not know what you were having until it came out?
No.
Did they even have that technology back then?
I don't guess.
So, probably not. So sorry. So when you had a girl, like, do you remember holding her for the first time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a nurse named Mary something, I forget her last name. She was a long-time nurse there for Dr. Whirling and Dr. Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Cameron delivered all 4 of them.
All 4.
Yeah, Dr. Cameron delivered all 4 of my kids.
Well,
when him and Dr. Whirling was at Whitaker Hospital.
Well, I'll skip forward just because I got so in depth with your first one, and the reason I'm saying that is because those memories for me were always are still like really vivid. The first time I had my kid and the thoughts, and you're all excited, and that's why I was asking you those questions. But so then Duel was born.
I said, "Wow, I got me a fisherman."
So you were excited when it came out and Duel had a Peter on him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a thing. So did you guys did a lot of fishing?
Oh yeah. Yeah, down through the years. We still fish together now and then. We don't fish much as we used to though.
Yeah. All right. So Duel, what's Duel's name? What's Duel's name? What's his full name?
Doyle Young Phillips.
Duel Young?
Young, Young.
His
named after Doc Bricky. His is Young Oric. Young Oric Bricky.
Who's Doc Bricky?
He was my wife's uncle. See.
Yeah.
And I told her her aunt raised her.
Uh huh.
And Doc was her husband.
But she called Doc Bricky her dad.
Yeah. Dad was dad and mom.
Yeah. So basically, Grandma Alta Mae grew up a doctor's kid. I know indirectly, but yeah, she grew up a doctor's kid.
Yeah.
Was she spoiled?
No.
Grandma wasn't spoiled. Just checking.
No, they were good.
So you had your third kid.
Yeah, that was Mary.
What's her name?
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then your last one.
The last one was your dad, Lloyd Dale. Everybody knows him.
So let me ask you, just because you say that, did everybody know? I mean, everybody knew all your kids, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Well, how come Dad was more known? If you word it that way, but
yeah.
How come people know Dad so well?
Oh, I don't know, because I've been here all that time. And another thing too, I've worked with kids I umpired baseball games for years from them, and then I umpired for several years for them, and then I was, I don't know what you call it, me and another guy was, any problems they had with the little leagues, we was one that settled it. Whatever we said is what goes.
So
I forget what they called us.
Well, there you go. So that's something I didn't know. You used to be a baseball umpire.
Yeah.
I guess that would explain why you've went to every baseball game,
Yeah.
whether I played or not,
Yeah.
since I was a kid. So were parents crazy back then like they are now?
No.
Like,
No. Nothing like parents then, but nothing like they are now.
you know, now they're getting fist fights at games. You didn't really have that back
Well,
then.
I see things that little kids does now. Their mothers don't even know. They sit right there by them and don't even know they're doing it. They be screaming, hollering, or raising cane, jumping up and down on the table, and they're sitting there yap, yap, yap. Don't even see what that kid's doing.
So, well, now let me go back to. I'm about to tie all this in together, but because I always hear stories that I've heard stories about how wild my dad is. I've heard that forever. Like, did you know that my dad was wild? Like, do you know that he was that way? Do you know ornery? I guess is the word. Is that?
Yeah, I knew it the time he was 4 years old.
So did my dad make you laugh?
Oh yeah,
He did.
he made everybody laugh.
But so you laughed at Dad.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked is because I think my dad thinks I'm funny now. I don't know if my dad thought I was funny when I was a kid, because I don't ever really, as a kid. Oh no, he was a great dad, but I don't remember him just like belly rolling at anything I said when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it seemed like he would be mildly annoyed. My mom would laugh and he wouldn't laugh, and he'd. I mean, look, I 100% was loved, but I don't know if he thought I was funny, so that's why I asked it. So you knew my dad was funny.
Oh yeah.
Did you give him whippings?
No.
You didn't. You you never whipped Dad.
No.
Not one time. Did you whip any of the other kids?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
so even back then, the youngest kid got away with everything. So the stuff that you'd have whipped the old ones for, you let the young one get away with.
Well, no, not necessarily. Lord Dale, he was just, I mean, he wasn't mean or, radical or nothing like that. He was just, well, like I said, everybody knows Lord Dale.
He just liked to have a good time.
I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
Up here at the old sale barn, he was just a little tight can, about, I don't know, 8 years old, something like that. Joe Kelch and Tom Carroll owned the sale barn up here.
Mm-hmm.
He'd go in and sit down and see they had a hamburger bar, it's a sale barn.
Yeah.
He'd go in and sit down and order his hamburger. Said Joe Kelch told me to come in and get my hamburger. I found out later Joe Kelch said, "Well, you little devil," said, "I never told you to go eat a hamburger on me." But Joe Kelch, he loved him. Well, everybody thought the world of Lloyd Dale.
Yeah.
But he just pulled deals like that. Down there in the Cook's Cafe one day, Pete Weaver, when he was sheriff, and Henry Campbell was county commissioner, they was sitting at the bar eating breakfast up there at Cook's Cafe, and Lloyd Dale come in. He was just a little tight. Scooted in on the bench beside of him. And he told Pete Weaver, he said, "I'm here to collect my steak." And old Slim Weaver told him, said, "We'll get this boy a steak cooking." I don't know what kind of deal that he had made before that or something. But anyway, Pete Weaver, he acknowledged it, told him, said, "Get this boy a steak." And that's the kind of deal he'd pull.
Yeah. Now, the reason I was asking if you ever whipped him, because I've heard this story a lot. And my dad doesn't tell me these stories. Just people do. That he used to throw rocks at high school kids right here, and when they would start walking down the street and they'd see Dad was outside, they'd go to the other side of the road because he'd stand outside and throw rocks at them. Now, did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure that was. I'm pretty sure.
Probably just a little tight chunk of rocks. Get some attention.
That's funny. So, yeah, I didn't know that definitely about the umpiring thing. But did you coach him? Did you ever coach baseball?
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Not just once.
No, I know. I mean elementary.
Just once in a while. I mean, when one of the other coaches was not available or something,
Yeah.
I fell in for him. But other than that, that's the only way I ever coached. I did some coaching while I was umpiring. One little tyke he shoves the guy off the base and tags him. I said, no, son, you can't do that. He's safe. You can't push him off and then tag him.
So we're talking about Dad. So now at this point, your first kid graduate. Do you remember the year they graduate? Look, I know some of these things I don't know, but so Darlene graduates and she goes off and she meets Pee Wee and let's talk about this because and I know Pee Wee's still around and we all love him, but let me ask you just from your personal. All right, so your daughter gets her first boyfriend. Now, you always knew as a kid that she was going to have her first boyfriend. When she finally had her first boyfriend, what did you think about that?
Well, Pee Wee actually was her first real boyfriend, you know. Yeah, first one, another, no, 2 or 3 different ones. But then, like I said, Pee Wee was her first real boyfriend, which she married, you know.
Yeah, they've been married. They're still married to this day. Did you like Pee Wee the first time you met him?
Yeah, he was a good kid.
Did you know Pee Wee before they met?
No,
No.
He was from over around Santon Springs, Tulsa, or someplace over there.
Yeah.
And then they moved here then after his dad died.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he went to Webster High School, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, his dad passed away, then they moved to Locust Grove, and that's when she met Pee Wee then.
So you always liked him then, huh?
Yeah, he's been a good boy.
Well, I guess it worked out. He's still around, huh?
Yeah, he's still here.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Pee Wee. He's kind of a sissy, isn't he? Is he a sissy?
Oh, no.
No?
No. No way.
No, I just said that to be funny because that's stuff Pee Wee's called me Boy George since I was 2 years old. Yeah. Right? I mean, since I was a little kid, he's called me that point. I just was wondering your thoughts. Basically, the questions I'm asking you now are some of the things that go through my head right now because I got 2 little girls. Well, you know, and like all the people always ask me, like, oh, they got a boyfriend? How you feel about that? How are you going to feel when they're dating? How are you going to feel when they start driving? How, you know, people ask me these questions all the time, and I don't know the answers because I haven't experienced all of those things. They're not that old, but that's why I'm asking you, like, if you remember. And I'm going to backtrack just a minute. That car that you dusted Grandma with, or that car that you dusted Altamay with, was that your first car?
Oh, no.
What was your first car?
The first one was a 1936 Ford. Let's see, what did they call it? It was a 36 Ford. I think they were 45 horsepower, 45 or 60. It had little old pistons about the size of a snuff can.
Yeah.
I bought it, incidentally, from Red Walker here in Locust Grove with part of my mustering out money.
With the part of your what money?
Mustering out Army.
Yeah.
And I drove it home. Well, no, I didn't drive it home neither. I drove it to a half a mile from home. It wouldn't pull a hill going to home. I had for a week and a half, I'd park it down there in the holler between Uchi and home.
Yeah.
And walk home because it wouldn't pull a hill.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you. You said it was 45 horsepower if it was fast.
It was a V8, but the little old piston's about that big.
Yeah. The stereo was good in it?
Oh, yeah. No, it had no damn stereo. Had the radio, had 5 or 6 bands.
Could you always get a signal? Could you always get a signal on the radio back then? Like even if you're out in the country, would it come in?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you can pick it up. But back then, our radios, you had a car battery, 2B batteries. They were about this big around, about this tall, 2 of them. 4A, you had 4A batteries, almost that big, 2B batteries, and a car battery. That's what everybody had back there then.
Yeah.
To power the radio. Your car battery went down, you haul that dude in a little wagon down to town and catch a ride to Roll Care and take it to Jay and get your get your battery charged, up that chain and bring it back, and then you're good for several days.
Yeah.
Then you have to do it all over again. That's the way the radios first started out.
Well, look, I'm basically stepping through this whole thing, but I am going to ask you because I brought up radios, and then it led to this thought. What'd you do for ice when you were a kid?
The delivery man come around. Well, that didn't happen until it was after I was married.
Okay,
I was in '49.
So as a little kid, you just didn't.
Our ice box was under the eave of the house on the east side of the house, a hole in the ground about, 20 inches, about a 20 by 20 box buried in the ground under the eave of the house where it's always cool, probably still is most places,
Yeah.
And it had a lid on it, and you set your milk and butter in there. Of course, it doesn't last but one, you use your milk and butter both every day.
Yeah.
But that's the only cooling system you had was in that.
Yeah.
And if you was lucky enough to have a spring at your place,
Yeah.
well, you set it in the spring, it'll keep it cool.
How close was the water to where you lived?
Oh, we got our water about 125 yards from the house.
So
Now this was later. To start with, back there where we lived when Daddy passed away, in 1936, the water there was about, I don't know, probably 250 yards from the house one way and a quarter the other way to the springs.
Yeah.
And you carried water to home in buckets. Dad had a sled built, and they had them barrels, those 55-gallon barrels. He'd haul them to the house on this sled with a pull. It was a team of horses, And that's the way you done it back there then. And then while I was in the Army, they drilled that was after we moved to Uchi, of course. There was already water there in the house that we rent.
Yeah.
But therefore, we had 150 yards to carry our water, and you go down there and take all your laundry and everything down there at the spring and branch,
Yeah.
But while I was in the Army, they drilled a well there where my mom and my daughters was living, or where I lived before I went in. And they claimed it was the best well in the country, and it wasn't more than 35 foot deep. And it's still there. They're still using it to this day, but there's a new home there now.
Yeah.
And it was right by the back door.
So, did you just drink the water right out of the stream back then?
Oh yeah.
You can't do that now, can you?
Oh no.
What?
No, they got too much chicken manure in them. Too much chicken manure in them.
Oh, they do.
No.
Yeah. Well, back then they did. Yeah. Well, it seemed like things were a little healthier back then.
Oh yeah.
Did you swim in that same stream or creek?
Well, no, it run into Spavinaw Creek, which which Lake Uchi now.
Yeah.
But that's where we done our swimming. The creek was about 1.5 miles from home.
See a lot of snakes.
Yeah.
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 A lot of snakes back then.
A lot of water moccasins.
Yeah. Well, it probably seems different because now everything's touched.
Yeah.
Like the whole landscape's touched.
Yeah.
So back then, you probably were really. It wasn't all developed, was it?
No.
Yeah. Well, I bet there was a lot of snakes.
Oh, they were. Yeah.
A whole lot of them. Well. So okay. So we'll fast forward. So now your kids, you're having kids. Now, do you remember? I don't know, but I got a cousin named Shorty. You remember when he was born? Because now this is your first grandkid.
Yeah. I remember when he was born. Yeah.
Because this was your first grandkid, right?
Yeah, first my grandson. Yeah.
So he was. You were excited for that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had to be.
Yeah, he was a little dandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he was born, did they know if he was going to be a boy or a girl
I think so. I think they did on him.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool. So now you got a grandson. How many grandkids you got?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to sit down near the pencil and paper and figure it out. There's I think 9 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, and you also got some.
Great.
You also got some inherited grandkids, because
Yeah, and I got some great grandkids.
so you got a few of them, huh?
Yeah.
So for you to have so many grandkids, it's kind of sad for Shorty, who I know was your favorite because he was the oldest, and then my brother Scott, who was the youngest of all of them, and I know those seem to be your two favorites. But it's a shame to know that I'm your favorite grandkid.
Yeah.
Of all the grandkids you got, I'm your favorite. That's a shout out to you, Shorty and Scott. So, and then I'll bring up Dawn, because now you got a girl grandkid. Actually, your second one, right? Your first grandkid was a boy, second was a girl, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, see, you can do that. Now I'm happily married, and now that you know that it's over, and I got two girls, I don't want anything different, like, because I'm done having kids. I'll tell you that, Papa. But I'm cool with it. Like, I'm fine with it. But before they came out, before we found out, because I found out both of them that they were going to be girls way before they ever showed up. So I just was excited about it. But before that time happens, when you're going, you're like, all right, let it be a boy. Let it be a boy. But if you already had boys, every person that I know that has girls wants boys, or at least one, or everybody who has boys wants girls, at least one. And then some of my friends have just split them. First one was boys, second one was a girl, or vice versa. So yeah, I wanted boys, but I didn't have them, and I'm happy. So for you to have that happen,
boy and a girl, boy and a girl.
You got them right then. Mm-hmm. You got your own kids and your grandkids that fell that way. So yeah, so that's that's a pretty interesting thing. Now let's just talk about it. Now I know you can't speak for Alta May, but I'm going to have you speak for her. Alta May. I think she thought I was ornery.
Yeah.
And I'm getting this out on camera, by the way, because every year, she would take the grandkids to Oklahoma City to my great grandma's house, and they'd go to this amusement park. And every year, she would never tell me about it, and I would find out later from my cousin Brian, who'd be like, "Hey, we went to Frontier City last week." And I'm like, "Grandma said I could go this year, so you guys didn't tell me again." So it really hurt my feelings that she would never let me go, but because she thought I would act up. Is that why?
I guess.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? I'll tell you one thing. She did still whip me with it, but I was pretty proud of myself for saying it, because I was 8 years old. I'm not proud now, I'm old now. I'm more respectful, but I remember I'm on the porch one day. Grandma whipped me with a switch this day, but this is how it happened. I don't know what I did. I don't remember. But she said, "Go cut me a switch." That's what she said. She said, "Go cut me a switch." Now I was probably eight years old.
I've heard that too. When I was little.
Yeah. But this is what I told. But this is what I told her, and she got mad, and so she said, "Go cut me a switch," and I was like, if I cut a switch, you're gonna hit me with it?" She said, "Yes," and I'm like, "Well, you better go cut it yourself." I don't know if that was the smartest thing to say, because she went and cut it and went to whipping. So I'll tell you that. So I think do you think whipping kids is a good thing for some of them? For some of them,
you bet your boots. It'd be a different country now if parents would take a paddle or a belt to their kids.
Yeah, well, what about, but sometimes people got this, and it's a real thing, but some people have this ADD and ADHD. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's real. But I think some of it, if you discipline them enough, I think that works too.
Well, like I said a while ago, I've seen people Sat there, kid just tearing the place up, and they sat there yap, yap, yap. They can't even see that kid across the table from them doing anything. They don't pay no attention to it. They don't never say, son, be quiet, settle down.
Yeah.
No, they don't ever say nothing. They don't even hear them. They don't see them.
Huh.
Running round and round the table in the cafe, playing back and forth, running and stumbling around through the place. They're sitting there yapping, don't even know it.
Well, that sounds like a parent issue, not a
That's
kid
right.
issue, doesn't it?
That's right. That's a parent issue.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like. Maybe it's because they didn't get whippings, didn't know any different.
Yeah.
You think maybe?
Well, yeah, probably.
Is it true? Is it true that people used to whip other people's kids?
It's possible. Yeah.
Like that was a thing?
Yeah. Some neighbors' kids was your house. They done something they hadn't ought to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd take it parallel to them. Yeah.
Serious.
They'd tell the folks about it, and they'd say, "Good, give them another one."
And they were whipping in school back then too. Well, they did that when I was in school.
You bet.
Yeah, they did. That was the thing.
I had a cotton picking teacher that had a 56-inch belt. He didn't whip me, but he scared me worse than if he had to whip me.
Yeah.
He bent me over and got hold of them bib overhaul, the galluses behind, and pulled them up right tight, had me bent down over the desk. And then they whopped the side of that desk with that belt. I think it hurt as bad as if it hit me. I thought I felt it anyway.
Well, listen, if it's a 56-inch belt, that guy wasn't a small guy, was he?
No, he wasn't.
I don't think so. That guy wasn't running too many marathons, was he, Papa?
No.
I didn't think he was. Not 56-inch. Look, I'm getting a little hefty myself, but I'm about 20 inches less than that, so that's probably a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I think my dad whipped me a couple times with the belt. He also pretended to whip me a couple times too. He just said, "Don't tell mom." And but I remember mom was the mean one. Yeah. I mean, I think I annoyed my dad. Remember earlier when I said I don't remember him just belly laughing? I think I annoyed him because I was so loud and over the top. So I know he loved me, but mom was the one that would. Mom was the face slapper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mom was for sure the face slapper in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that because she don't talk. She acts like she's she's a nice lady, but she was a face slapper when I was a kid. And there's no way she'd have a meltdown if I were to slap one of my kids. She'd have a meltdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't slap my kids, but my mom wouldn't put up with it. But I don't know how she could have justified doing it to me. I didn't think that was very nice. Do you?
Yeah. No.
Well, all right. So I tell you what. So then you got all these grandkids, and how long were you married?
We was married 67 years.
67 years.
Yeah, when she passed away.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not even 60. I'm only 40.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
You were 20. How old were you? I mean, I guess I could go back and do the math based off of what you told me. How old were you when you got married, you say?
She was 18 and I was 22.
22. Yeah, 67 years.
Yeah.
Those were good years. You got a lot of family who loves you and a lot of grandkids.
Yeah. February the 12th, Lincoln's birthday in 1949 when we got married.
Yeah. February 12th. That was almost the day of love, huh? On Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
That was close.
Yeah.
Well,
2 days before Valentine's Day.
Two days.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I was right beside you. The day Grandma passed away.
Yeah.
Do you remember the last thing she did?
Mm-mm.
Well,
I remember the last thing she did. The last thing she said when I was sitting there holding her hand when she passed away.
Yep.
But
well, here,
I know you took pictures of it. Got a video deal or tape or record or whatever you call.
Yeah.
That you made over this just shortly before, about 2 weeks before she.
Yeah,
Passed
I
away.
got that. But the reason I brought it up, because I know that's something that seems like an odd thing to bring up, but I didn't bring it up for a negative reason. I brought it up because I remember this, and you do too. So we're laying there, and she's and it's all peaceful, and it's about to go. And at that point, she hadn't opened her eyes in what, 3 days?
When she passed away that night.
Yep.
Well, I sat there for 14 hours. I was just about couldn't get up. I
Yep.
sat there in a hard bottom chair. Just
About like this chair, your
Yeah.
back's gonna hurt when we're
and
done.
I sat there and hold her hand under her blanket,
Yeah.
And been sitting there 14 hours. You was the one that said she opened her eyes.
No, not yet. I said, go ahead, and then I'll.
Yeah. Anyway, I was sitting there holding her hand, and she took two long breaths. She hadn't opened her eyes in 14 hours. She took 2 breaths, kind of short, jerky breaths,
Yep.
And Darlene was sitting beside me, and you was on the other side of her.
Yep.
And I said, she just got a little short breath in. I said, you can see her, like that. And I said, she looked up, opened her eyes just like that, and closed them.
That was,
One little breath, and she was gone.
and that was exactly why I asked you that, because I couldn't, after 67 years, and when that time happens, and she hadn't opened her eyes that whole time, the very last thing she saw was you.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it, the last time that we had her in there, trying to give her something to eat or put a little water in her mouth, she looked up at me. That was the last word that she ever said. She looked up at me, and she said, I like you.
Yeah.
Just like it.
Yeah.
She always told everybody.
Yeah.
Told everybody, I like you.
Yep.
A little waitress out there, Shorty's cafe out there.
Yeah.
There's a little black-headed woman worked there. Alabama looked up at her one day and said, she's cute.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's why I brought that up, because that to experience that and see that.
That was quite a deal. Her popping her eyes open.
Yep.
After 14 hours, she just opened her eyes and looked me right in the face, and that was it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, she was a feisty lady, huh?
Yeah. No, she was. She's a good woman too.
I just wish she had took me to the amusement park, Papa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's always that was always a funny joke, and I still say it to this day, because I tease my mom, acting like my mom acts like my oldest daughter's her favorite, so I tease her all the time. I'm like, can Bella go too?
Yeah.
Do you think, can Bella be a part of it?
Yeah.
I just say stuff like that to her. She watches. Look, she loves them all. She watches my kids all the time, and I think loves Bella. But look, it's like a Shorty deal, Papa. Let's don't mistake anybody. We all know Shorty's the golden child in this family. But well, Avery's the oldest too, and I think my mom. She won't say it out loud, but I think my mom has a favorite. If I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Oh, I think she does. She won't tell us, but I think she does. Yeah. Well. Yeah. That puts us to. I guess I should have muted this thing. Sorry, anybody listening. So that puts us to now. Your 94th birthday. You've been a part of the VFW for how long?
I joined them in February of 1950, and I've been a paid-up member ever since.
So, how long have you? What's the correct terminology? Are you the president? What do you call it? What's
commander?
You're the commander.
Yeah, I was post commander 11 years in a row.
Are you still right now?
No, I turned it all over to this younger generation.
Yeah. Well,
I'm still a member, still paid up life member,
yeah.
but I don't have nothing. I'm not no officer in any part of it, you know.
Are you the oldest one down there?
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, I'm about the oldest one around the Locust Grove area.
Yeah.
I can't ask nobody anything because ain't nobody that knows. Like people at J, you know, well, was my stomping ground, you know, till
Yeah.
I went into service. And I can't ask nobody up there about anything because ain't nobody up there old enough to know. I'm the only one. The whole group of people that was in the school when I was,
Yeah.
you know, of around my age group.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them is still living. None of the boys that went to the army, none of the girls back there that I dated, none of them. None of the girls at my age, you know, that I knew, none of the boys. They're all gone. I'm the only one left.
Now I know sometimes things are hereditary and some people just couldn't help it. But do you think eating good food like vegetables and meats just from nature, do you think that aids a lot in that?
Well, probably.
Yeah.
Probably would.
I mean, you literally have been eating things that you shot and
Oh,
grew
yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah, we had bullfrogs, white sucker fish, and occasionally a nice young fat groundhog, red squirrels, gray squirrels, bullfrogs.
You ate groundhogs.
Oh yeah, that's delicious. Old Granny Phillips, dress them dudes out, clean them up good, lay them belly up in that pan, sprinkle them with pepper and sage. Scoot them dudes in the oven and bake them. Oh, they good.
What was Granny Phillips's name?
Vina.
Vina.
Vina Redding was her middle name. And I don't know how her and Grandpa ever got hooked up. He's from Golden, Missouri, and she's from Texas.
Huh.
I don't know how they got together.
Well, that's that would be interesting to know because
Yeah.
that's a lot of ground to cover back then.
Yeah, I don't have a clue how they ever.
When did cars come out?
Oh God.
1906, 4, 5.
Oh no, there's some foreign.
Before then, I'd have to look at that.
Probably 19. Oh, that's probably older than 1904s, but they might have been. Might have pulled him with a horse. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this because 1886 was considered the birth year of the modern car,
That's what I figured.
and it was a Benz. It was a Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I got that. So it looks like the first car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I look. Just the distance that you had to travel back then. So, what's the furthest? Okay, let me ask you this, and then we'll wrap it up. We won't sit here too much longer. But what? Of outside the war, when you came home, you never really traveled much, did you?
No. Never been out of the state of Oklahoma after I got out of the army.
Well, with the exception of tip of Arkansas and just barely into Kansas, right?
25, 30 miles from here, you know.
Yeah, that's right, because it's not that far.
Yeah.
But you were Wichita, so Kansas is. You think Wichita was the furthest?
Yeah, that's when I was working up at Wichita.
Do you think Wichita is that the furthest you've been?
Yeah.
Well, how come? Why? Like why? How come you never traveled?
I'm more or less a homebody.
I think the reason I asked, I didn't know if you were going to say it. It seemed like one time you told me, it seemed like, and maybe I'm not trying to make it up, but I swear you told me that you swore if you made it home from the war, you'd never leave Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I swear you've told me that before. Does that sound something?
It is.
Yeah, and so I knew that you'd just outside of the tip because we're in northeast Oklahoma. Yeah. So Kansas is right there, and I guess Missouri. Did you ever go to Missouri?
The only time I ever was in Kansas was the archery tournament.
Mm-hmm.
One tournament we shot up at what's that in the Straddles, Oklahoma line up there?
in Kansas?
Coffeyville.
Oh, yeah.
Coffeyville, just over in the line.
Yeah, and literally half the towns in Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I one trip to Texas too. I shot archery then in Arkansas, and I shot an archery tournament in Denison, Texas.
Yeah.
Down there.
So just because we skipped that part, when did you first start shooting a bow?
1960.
Oh, that wasn't even a skill you did as a kid.
Oh no, I picked up 1960, and I was, well, you can see there, I was one of the best in the state.
Yeah.
And I've killed 80 bucks with a bow.
80
bucks with a bow, 4 bobcats, 3 coyotes, 2 gray fox, and a bunch of squirrels.
Yeah.
And a few bullfrogs.
You killed frogs with a bow and arrow, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's so. Okay, now let me jump back again. When you were a kid, what did you hunt with? What was your?
We call them beanie flip. Wrist. Nowadays they call them what is it? Wrist slingshot.
Oh, so slingshot.
Yeah, slingshot is what they call them now.
Yeah. Well, and that you hunt rabbits and squirrels with them. It was pretty accurate.
Oh yeah, I can knock a turtle dove's head off with one. Yeah. We made our own, you know. Of course, you can't get no rubber now that you can make a beanie strip with. I've got one out there now that I made some little old rubber bands that I was shooting at starlings there on the porch when they come to get my cat food.
Yeah.
We'd get us a fork, you know,
yeah,
and make our own rubber deals with a leather deal. Yeah, I could sneak up and under a tree and knock a turtle head off up there sitting on a dead limb.
Well, that's a thing.
Kill squirrels with it too.
Huh. So that's what you hunted with back then. So when you started shooting, how long did it take you to get good?
You mean with archery?
Yeah.
I was more or less a natural. Just natural. I was good first deer. I got his antlers out there on the porch. First deer I killed with a bow was 60 yards. That was an accident.
Yeah.
It was an accident. I was shooting an old fiberglass single, fiberglass, just straight like a longbow, you know.
Yeah.
One that you take apart and unstring it and take it apart in the middle.
Yeah.
And old George Hooker loaned it to me, and that was the first deer that I killed. I killed that, and it was on a downhill shot, which is hard. Mm-hmm. At 60 yards, me and Lloyd Neal stepped it off both ways. And I dropped that buck right in his tracks.
Really?
And that was the first time I ever hunted with a bow.
Really?
Yeah.
And you got one?
I killed that 6-point buck, and but I've killed 2 since then. I killed another one at 62 steps, one at 60 steps with a bow.
Well, I know you hunted and you fished. I mean, like, I know that. So a couple things, just because we're talking about it before I forget. What's the largest deer you ever?
The biggest one.
Yeah, and did you shoot it with a gun or a bow?
The biggest one that I've ever killed, I killed with a muzzleloader.
The muzzleloader.
Biggest one, it field rest 168 pounds.
You can set up if you want. I can move it however you want.
The biggest one I ever killed with a bow was 162 pounds field rest. And I got both the racks out there on the porch.
That's all. And you just pull them out yourself?
But, yeah.
You just throw them over your shoulder and walk them out?
Oh, no. The one that I killed, 162 pound, I dropped him 7 steps from the bottom of a tree. Yeah. Dropped him in his tracks. I led him a little too far. He was trotting real fast, trailing the doe. And I led him too far. I hit him in the side of the neck, got in his spine, and dropped him in his tracks. Then he spun around on the ground trying to get up, and I put another arrow through his lungs. And the one on the muzzleloader, he was way off down the slope, and if he'd went 2 foot farther, he'd went straight down off the bluff about 20 foot. We'd had to cut him in little pieces to get him out. But my brother backed his international scout way down that slope down there, and I had 100-foot soft cable
Yeah.
that we carried with us, and we had tomahawks. Of course, we didn't use them there then.
Yeah.
We just backed down to where that 100-foot cable reached him and hooked it on around his horns. And then I got him by the front legs, and you're going up, dragging something uphill, you're dragging his shoulders right into the ground.
Yeah.
So I kind of held him up, takes the weight off his shoulder, dragged him right out up on the flat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So because earlier you said that there weren't a lot of deer when you were a kid, or hardly any,
No,
none. You said none.
You'll never seen a deer until, well, I was still in school.
You can set
So
up.
I was at 14 years old, I guess, when the first deers had ever showed up in this country, and they were transplanted.
So did you know what deer were before you saw?
Oh
them?
yeah.
So okay.
And one of these transplants that they brought from down the Comish Mountains,
Yeah.
an old boy shot one of them right after they turned loose a big buck, and I tracked that dude for 3 miles and lost it. I was 14 years old. I seen him cross the corner of the schoolyard down there.
Yeah.
And I got on his track, and I tracked him for 3 miles and lost him. Then I got down where I just found a drop of blood every 10 or 15 foot.
Yeah.
And I dropped him, and the next day the school bus driver making the school bus run, he ran onto him right in the V of where the roads forked, from where I tracked him up alongside one road up where I lost it, and the school bus seen him from the bus, ladder 20 yards from the road.
Really?
He's about 50 yards from where I lost his trail, head going straight on.
Oh wow.
And that was the first deer that I ever seen. And the second one I ever seen, he had his ears cropped and had tag in his ear and his horn sawed off. He just had knobs about like that, a big buck.
Yeah.
He jumped off the bank and hit right in the front of me in the road, and I was driving 34 Chevrolet then. And I slammed on my brakes, and he just stared at me like it's after dark.
Yeah.
Then he jumped back out of the road and left. That was the second deer I ever seen. And he was a transplant too.
So, when you went hunting and you went fishing, because I feel like this is a part I didn't say either, just because I want to know. You went with your friends, right?
Yeah.
Who did you have a best friend or two?
Oh yeah. Had two of my best friends, Burl Arnold and Arthur LeBoeuf. Yeah. Me and Burl was fishing and deer hunting buddies. Me and Art, we were deer hunting and mainly quail hunters. Me and him quail hunted every day of the season after I retired from McDonnell Douglas in '88.
How old were you when you met Burl?
When I met Burl,
Uh-huh.
oh God, I don't know. It was longer about 1960. Along in there is when I first started bow shooting. That's when I started bow shooting. 1960.
Was he a bow shooter also?
Yeah, he got to be pretty darn good too. He killed several deers with a bow.
What about Art? When did you meet Art?
Along about that same time when we all started in archery. And me and Art, we wound up to be two of the best instinctive shooters in the state.
Yeah.
And the best at judging distance, and that's the reason we were the best.
Yeah.
We'd look at the target and say, well, that's about 40 yards. And, we didn't use sights or nothing.
Use recurve bows?
Yeah.
And you walked your face?
Yeah. Yeah, I finger walked on the distances a lot of time. And that's, when I first started deer hunting, I used that finger walking just like I used to estimate the distance to, like them that I killed 60 yards.
Uh-huh.
On them there, see, I come down here with my top finger right there in the bend of my lip.
Mm-hmm.
100 yards, I dropped off the bottom here.
Yeah.
And then you get up close, I come all the way up here with this third finger here. See, then I'm practically looking right down my ear. and I'd shoot 6 goals in the indoor tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Put all 5 arrows in a 1-inch circle.
Really?
Yeah, man, old Dennis. Can't think of his name now. What's the line? Dennis. Can't remember his name. Dennis, he's still over.
Yeah. It's one of your old buddies, huh?
Yeah.
So,
Burl and Art have both passed away.
yeah, well, the reason I asked that is because my dad swears that Burl Arnold was the funniest human being he's ever met in his life.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a regular comedian.
He was a funny guy, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard some stories about Burl. My dad's told me a lot. There's my friend Luke Black, just due to Facebook. How he tells me Burl Arnold stories. He usually gets them from David.
Yeah.
That's where they come from. Do you have a favorite Burl Arnold story?
Yeah, but they're not to be told.
Well, yeah, that's funny that you say that because, like I'm a normal guy and I'm a happy guy and I'm trying to do the right thing now. You know, I go to church, but on my podcast, PaPa, that I don't say cuss words. I try to keep it clean, and to be honest, some of the funniest stories of my life that would make people laugh, they're not going to see the light of day. Probably for the same reason you just said. So.
I'll tell you one good old Burl pulled.
Yeah.
When we fished Lake Oochie up there all the time, we fished every night. There's a doctor and his pretty little wife from Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and they fished it a lot. Mm-hmm. And me and Burl, we was regulars up there. We caught more big bass in Lake Oochie than anybody. And I don't know whether you ever seen them or not, but I see me like I used to see them in the bars, and they were some kind of an advertisement. It's like a bumblebee or a yellow jacket, mm-hmm. Only he's huge. Well, he probably got as big as a half a gallon jar.
Yeah.
Big bug eyes on him, big fuzzy tail,
mm-hmm.
And about a number 6 or 7 aught hook in it.
Yeah.
Had wings sticking out on it.
Yeah.
And old Burl tied that onto an old cast iron rod, one of them old expensive ones. Mm-hmm. And had it laid on the front seat of the boat, and at the front end of it, that deal was sticking up under the bow of the boat. And the cafe up there, when we pulled in of a morning, about daylight or a little after, they had just emptied the cafe here. They all come down before we was launching our boat. This little doctor, she always said, "Well, Burl, did you do any good tonight or last night?" Old Burl said, "Yeah, and he held up a string of bass, and me and Burl both caught 10-pound bass out of Lake Oochie. Some old boy claims he has a record of 10-pound bass, but being Burl and Art LeBuck all had a bigger bass than he did. And anyway, Burl said, "Yeah," I said, "we had pretty good luck," and they pulled it out from under there. He said, she said, "What was you get them on?" Said, "We didn't get them on jig and eel at all tonight." I said, "We couldn't get a strike on them." Burl said, "Well, no," he said, "Here's what we used." I had to bumblebee looked like it weighed about 5 pounds. So that's what we used for bait. Then another time, I caught a 9-pound bass, and he hooked one, brought it in, it got off in the boat, and it was probably 8-10 inches long, and he grabbed it up by the tail and held that one dock on and dropped him in there, and we couldn't get him out. His fins, you couldn't pull him out of that bass's mouth.
Really?
Well, we come in that time, he was still in that bass. The same little gal asked you, they always said, "Did you do any good?" I said, "Yeah, we did." He lifted up, said, "Oh, since you used it last night." He said, we was using, he said, "Here's one of them right here. We was using a small bass." Her tail sticking out. Oh, that's what I said. He's a regular comedian.
Yeah. Well, that's super cool. Well, PaPa, I mean, look, there's probably 100 other stories, things I've skipped, but I just, this is awesome that we did it. So I just want to know.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'll probably set it up a little faster in the future. Maybe we'll do this next year. Maybe we'll do it next year also. But I know that you probably started sitting on that chair, and we'll get off here. You have anything you want to say? Like you?
No, I don't guess so.
You have any advice for the younger people?
Yeah.
What's that?
Just keep it going as long as you can.
Yeah.
Go as long as you can. That's the reason I mow my own yard, tend to my garden. I do it all myself. But some things have to have a little help for a little lift on it.
Yeah.
I can handle it up waist high. I can pick up and run with a cement block.
Yeah.
But if I get above my waist, I couldn't lift it 2 inches.
Well,
Of course, that shoulder's gone over here, you know.
yeah. So just keep it going. Now I'll ask you one more thing, because it's actually, there's a video of you doing it, and it's my wife's favorite thing. There's a song that you used to sing. You sung it on the video. Do you know what song I'm talking about? There's a song you used to sing. What is it?
Oh, the one that you sang to Alda Mail?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. If I can think what it was now. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't think part of it. I say, oh, Lord, we need a Savior up on this weary road. We need someone to guide us and share our heavy load. We need someone to love us and tell us what to do. Oh, Lord, we need a friend like you. And doesn't I used to sing it? Down in the valley so low, late in the evening, hear the train blow, hear the train blow, love, hear the train blow, late in the evening, hear the train blow. And then he goes, choo, 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 choo. That's what I tell him. And she just grins every time I say that. She'd really grin when I was singing that song. I'd say, you want me to hear it? You want me to sing your song? She'd say, uh-huh.
All right. Just things that hit before I get off, because really fast, nerdy 3 questions. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color?
Yep.
I like red.
Red.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're a Locust Grove Pirate fan.
That's right.
That's right. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. Due to this COVID thing that's happening right now, the local high school, because I'm the announcer where I live. Do you know that?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I'm the announcer at the high school football games.
Yeah.
Well, they asked me the other day if I had any music, because somebody got COVID in the band, and they have to. The band's got a quarantine, so the band can't show up for 2 games. Well, next week is homecoming, and they said, "Do you have any music that you can play during the game?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So I submitted them the Ohio State fight song.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Mm-mm.
You don't know the Ohio State fight song? Well, so I said, "Hey guys," I submitted it and said, "You should play this song." And by the way, I'm stuttering here because I'm trying to pull it up on my phone, and I'll just play it in the speaker, and I'll see if my grandpa notices what it is immediately. So now, once again, they said, "Do you have a song you can play if they score at the high school? 30 miles down the road, 35 miles down the road." And I said, "Sure, I'll play this song." You know that song?
I don't think I recognize it.
It's the Locust Grove fight song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear it too good.
Well, I'm gonna play the Locust Grove fight song
Yeah.
at the school down the road when they score touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
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 So, all right, who's your favorite? What's your favorite kind of music, and who's your favorite band?
Oh God, I don't know no band, but my favorite music is Orange Blossom Special on fiddler.
Yeah.
Orange Blossom Special and what is that? I can't think of this two. Orange Blossom Special, and I can't think the others. There's two of the main ones is my favorite.
But Orange Blossom Special for sure.
Yeah, that's number one.
I've heard you say that.
And boy, it takes a good fiddler to play it.
Yeah.
And it takes a better guitar man to second it.
Yeah.
And my brother was one of the best, so they said guys that played the Orange Blossom Special.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a favorite college football team?
Yeah.
Who's that?
OU, Dallas Cowboys.
OU and Dallas Cowboys, huh?
That's right.
You don't. You didn't even hesitate. You didn't even hesitate about that, did you?
No.
Well, that's. I mean, that's.
I kind of like Kansas City too.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like Buffalo Bills?
No.
Well,
No.
he didn't mean that, people. He loves the Bills secretly, probably. What about baseball? Who's your favorite baseball team?
Oh, I like the Cincinnati Cardinals.
Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah. Arizona Cardinals.
And Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
But well, just because you said that Cincinnati, because you like, were you a Pete Rose fan?
No, not necessarily.
Huh? Who was your favorite?
Oh, I didn't have no favorite.
Just you just like the Reds.
Yeah.
The Big Red Machine.
Yeah.
You know, well, they're pretty good back in the day, weren't they?
Yeah.
So, well, all right. That was it. Those the last couple things that I wanted to get in, because I know you watch sports all the time. You watch the local high school. You've been watching them for a lot of years, and I know that you watch sports on TV. So I just I never, to be honest, I guess you kind of living around here. I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but it's almost like you got to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. They don't really show anybody them in Kansas City, Denver sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So those Dallas has always been on TV, like for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so as long as you can remember watching football on
Oh
TV.
yeah. Yeah, I've been a Dallas fan ever since scratch go.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, we're reaching 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and jump off here. But look, this is some life stories with I call him Papa, with my Papa. Does anybody call you Grandpa? Does everybody call you Papa?
No, most of them calls me Papa.
Yeah.
I think Shorty calls me Grandpa.
That's because Shorty's trying to be sophisticated, isn't he? So, all right. Well, I'm going to hop off here. Thank you, Papa, for being on here and doing this, and pretty awesome. We probably got to get off these chairs for our backs don't work anymore.
Yeah.
So, all right. Love you guys.
Yeah.